A war tale.
On the frozen eastern frontier of Finland, winter tightened its grip in late 1939. Snow swallowed roads, pines stood like spears, and the winter war began to decide who would endure. This documentary follows one of its sharpest blades, the Battle of Suomussalmi. There, about 11,000 Finnish soldiers shattered two Soviet divisions, nearly 45,000 men, inside brutal forests at temperatures far below freezing. In December 1939, Soviet commanders sought quick progress northward, aiming to split Finland and force surrender. Their plan assumed that massed infantry, trucks, and artillery could overcome distance and snowdrifts. But Suomussalmi was not a straight-line battlefield. It was a maze of lakes, swampy patches, and dark spruce stands. The Finns, native to the terrain, could read it like a map. While Soviet columns advanced along limited routes, Finnish patrols slid across snow on skis, keeping distance and silence. White camouflage smudged silhouettes, and every footprint became a clue. Sometimes for the enemy, often for the Finns. The cold was not scenery, it was a weapon. At minus 40 degrees Celsius, metal stiffened, breath turned to ice, and exhaustion came faster than gunfire. Frostbite was a constant threat for both sides. When the Soviets pushed forward, their strength looked overwhelming on paper. Two divisions moved through the north, expecting that pressure, artillery, and numbers would roll the Finns back. In reality, the routes were narrow arteries. Trucks and supply wagons stretched out into long lines, and any delay amplified the gap between units. Finnish skiers waited for that gap to widen. First came contact, then confusion. A Soviet vanguard would advance, only to find the forest strangely quiet, the road disrupted, the map misleading. At night, the Finns struck, slipped away, and left tracks like decoys. As winter darkness settled, Finnish scouts marked Soviet positions with careful observation. Their reports didn't need grand speeches, just direction, distance, and timing. That discipline helped commanders choose the moments to divide the enemy. Then came the tactic that would define Suomussalmi, creating matis. The word means timber pits, and in practice it became a trap, isolated pockets of Soviet troops cut off from the main column. The Finns' key advantage was terrain knowledge. They knew which ridges held firm under snow, where lakes could freeze hard enough to cross, and how to approach without being seen. Instead of a single frontal clash, the Finns struck the connections: roads, bridges, communication lines, and supply routes. Once one segment of a column was detached, the Soviets were forced to fight blind in hostile woods. Soviet units tried to widen their circle, to push forward or break out to the rear. But cold, exhaustion, and constant skirmishing turned every attempt into a slow fight for survival. A mati could be small, dozens of men, or large enough to shelter a whole remnant of a division. Either way, the Finns controlled the approach, firing in bursts and then disappearing into white cover. In the minus 40 degrees night, sound carried oddly. The wind could muffle footsteps, but a bolt snapping in a rifle carried like a signal. Finnish units relied on silence, speed, and synchronized movements around the pocket. When daylight returned, the Soviets looked for paths through snow and spruce. But the Finns had already chosen kill zones, slopes, bends in the forest track, and tight spaces where movement slowed. More important than bullets was endurance. Ski troops could outmaneuver weary infantry, and their knowledge of shelter and fire kept them fighting when the Soviets froze and starved. Supplies became the first chain to break. Trucks stuck, convoys stretched, and every hour of delay made the next column even more vulnerable to being cut apart. The Finnish fighters also understood psychology. Surrounded men kept scanning tree lines for escape, wasting rounds and manpower. Meanwhile, Finnish teams rotated carefully, limiting fatigue inside the cold. At Suomussalmi, dozens of separate matis formed like islands in a sea of snow. Each one was attacked on its own schedule, tightening the net until the pocket could no longer resist. Some Soviet groups surrendered, others fought until ammunition dwindled. In this kind of winter warfare, a frozen weapon is useless, and a trapped radio is just dead weight. By splitting a force into compartments, the Finns turned numbers into weakness. 20 men behind trees can fire as effectively as 50 in the open, if they control the angles. Soviet commanders faced an unfolding nightmare. Their units were no longer one coordinated machine, but scattered groups fighting for warmth and food, while Finnish skiers kept closing the distance. Winter War casualty reports varied by source, but the outcome at Suomussalmi was clear. Two divisions that approached with confidence were battered into catastrophic losses, far beyond what Soviet planners expected. Against roughly 45,000 Soviet men, about 11,000 Finnish soldiers held the initiative, using skis, camouflage, and a ruthless understanding of how to fight in the cold. The mismatch was not just in equipment, it was in method. When the Soviets tried to regroup, Finns kept forcing new separations. Each time a column formed, it was nudged apart again, stretched thin, and then surrounded in pieces. Days turned to weeks under clouded skies. Aircraft and artillery could not erase distances when roads vanished under snow and visibility collapsed into whiteout. Finnish units used patrols to track Soviet movement, then struck at the most vulnerable points. They targeted the rhythm of advance, pauses, turnings, and resupply moments when attention was stretched. Ahmadi did not die instantly. It was reduced by patient local assaults, bayonets and grenades in the right place, rifle fire that never lingered too long. The Finns knew when to press and when to wait. For the Soviets, the forest became a labyrinth of freezing uncertainty. Men searched for exits that kept moving, while their radios failed, and their wagons drifted farther away. Encirclement also meant isolation from medical care. Wounds could be survivable in ordinary weather. In the cold, hypothermia took over. Even without graphic violence, time worked like an executioner. The battle's reputation traveled beyond Finland's borders. Observers saw how a smaller nation resisted a larger one by weaponizing winter itself, turning snow, trees, and darkness into tactical advantage. Suomussalmi demonstrated that terrain knowledge can beat brute force. A modern army may bring numbers, but it still has to move, communicate, and live, and the forest demanded all three on Finnish terms. As the Soviet units collapsed, Finland's fighters tightened control over remaining routes. The Finns did not chase endlessly. They consolidated, tracked stragglers, and prepared for the next push. Soon, the two shattered divisions became warnings rather than spearheads. Suomussalmi turned the Winter War's momentum, convincing the Soviets that easy breakthroughs were an illusion in the north. In the months that followed, armies learned hard lessons. The Soviet command adjusted tactics and logistics, while Finns continued to study how to fight from cover in a world of ice. For Finnish soldiers, the battle was both survival and proof. Their skis left faint lines on the snow, but their choices cut deeper, splitting an enemy column into mottes and smashing them one by one. Suomussalmi remains one of history's greatest military upsets, a smaller force using audacity, discipline, and local knowledge to overturn a vastly larger opponent. It also serves as a reminder of what warfare becomes when the environment is part of the enemy. When the temperature is 40 degrees Celsius, the world itself shapes strategy. On this icy landscape, the past feels close. Imagine the wind moving through spruce, the snap of gear, and the distant crack of rifles. Then picture how quickly one ambush could become a pocket of Mahdi's. If you're watching to learn, remember the core lesson. Strategy isn't only about weapons, it's about movement, knowledge, and control of space, especially where roads and maps fail. Thanks for spending time with the story of Suomussalmi. The Winter War's most dramatic moments are also the hardest to forget, and they deserve careful attention. Subscribe to our channel for more cinematic history and battlefield documentaries, and share this video with a friend who loves real-world strategy. Leave a comment with what you found most surprising about Mahdi's and winter tactics, and hit the bell so you never miss the next episode.